everyone, and welcome back into the podcast. I'm Kari, your co-host. I'm here with Jenn. We are excited to chat with you today about a new resource that we made, a free resource. It is a secret tool to aid in true healing. And so we hope to kind of just share something that you might not have ever thought about, something that can really help you to kind of peel back the layers in your health. So I'm excited to chat with you today about this. And so I'm going to turn it over to Jenn. She's going to get us started.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. So glad you're here. We're super excited to talk about today's subject, and it has to do with emotions. And it's not something we often, I think about first when we think about physical healing, right, Kara? I mean, it's not something we go to first, but emotions can be a big part of addressing illness and imbalances in the body. And so we're so excited to sort of introduce this concept if you haven't heard about it, and how the organs and emotions are related. It's called the somatic limbic relationship. And that basically just means that the organ, somatic, and limbic brain relationship. And so we just kind of want to introduce it to you and some tools that I've used in clinic with people in person and seen just really great results using something called tapping along with essential oils. So Kari's going to talk to you about just how those essential oils play a part in kind of handling the emotions. But really what we want to talk to you about is just a little bit what the connection is with each of the organs. So usually there's some sort of emotion or trauma that takes place. There's usually an original event that you experience. And then every situation that comes up where you experience that emotion again. So say that emotion is fear. Fear will be hinged sort of on that original first experience of the emotion. And so what happens is, over time, you kind of get all these fear situations that really get locked in the brain, in the amygdala. The amygdala is your emotional brain. And so every time you're in that situation, your body recalls, basically the experience. And so what happens is over time, that can affect the organ that is associated with the gland. With that emotion. So, and it's not a linear thing. So it's not to say that the emotion will always cause the glandular impairment. It could be vice versa. It could be that you have some physical issues with the kidney, for instance. And what happens is that might cause some emotions, maybe some fear, to pop up because there is a physical impairment. And so again, it's kind of a circular thing, meaning that an emotion can cause a disturbance in the organ. And also the physical disturbance or, an imbalance in that organ can create an emotion. And so that's what the organ emotion connection is. And we're going to just talk a little bit about how we can address that today. And how we can address some of those trapped negative emotions and basically surrender to that healing process. Because as I mentioned, I've seen huge changes in people. For instance, I was working with a lady, we could not get her blood sugar down. We tried everything across the board to get her first morning blood sugar down. And one day she came in and she was a little emotional. And so I showed her tapping and we used some oils. I always have oils with me in the office that I use on myself, of course. And we did some tapping and I showed her how to do the tapping. And basically she came back and she said, "You're never going to believe this, but my first morning sugar is starting to come down significantly." And we did nothing different for her physically. The only thing that she did was start to address the emotions with some oils, essential oils, and some tapping. So Kari, do you want to talk a little bit about the oils?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that story is amazing. Every time I hear it, I'm like, wow, that's really
amazing.
Cool.
That's the power
really
of emotions.
Yeah. And so I'll be honest, if you've been around this podcast much, you really haven't heard me talk much about emotions. And I'm really excited to share today in this episode and even in the next coming weeks and months, just about how powerful and what a big connection our emotions have to our physical health, because God has definitely opened my eyes to that and that there are so many layers to healing. And this particular tool that we're going to tell you about, or that we are telling you about, is one way that you can very easily, I think, start to address both the emotional and the physical kind of at the same time. Because whenever we think about like peeling back the layers of our health, it really, you have to address the emotional to do that, right? If we're only focused on the physical, which is mainly what I've been focused on, and Jenn has really opened my eyes, and the Lord has opened my eyes, of course, to this as well, of you can't really move forward in your health like you want to without this piece. And so specifically how essential oils are used in this process and like why they work so well. So essential oils, honestly, are something I've been studying and using for a long time. Over 11 years, I've been using them, and I've mainly been using them for physical things. But all the oils do have an emotional component to them, and it's a really great way we can address both the physical and the emotional at the same time. And so Jenn did mention tapping, that we're going to tell you a little bit more about in just a minute, but using oils with tapping it just kind of takes it to another level. Sure, you can do tapping alone, but pairing an essential oil that kind of goes with the emotion that you're trying to work through is just huge. It basically, if you think about it, like whenever we are looking to remove negative emotions from our thought process, basically, it really is like trying to, like in a garden sense, right? Trying to remove the things in our garden that are there that we don't want to be there. And so we want to remove the entire root, right? With the roots and all, right? The entire weed, I should say, with the roots and all. And so essential oils just help to soften the soil. It helps to almost allow you to move through that emotion better. That's the best way I can explain it. And again, all specific oils have specific emotional benefits. So you would want to pick an oil that pairs with the negative emotion that you're trying to work through, and honestly, like surrender to the Lord. That's how I use tapping anyway. So we'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like. But, working to release negative emotions are absolutely key in the healing process. And I think when we overlook that, we're going to miss a big piece of healing. And the more that we let go and trust, just the more enjoyable our life is going to be, right? I feel like recently I've realized how many negative things I was holding on to and having a negative thought process that has just been there for years. And I think it's just been a really key for me. And so I hope that as we kind of talk about this, you have an open mind to really looking in your heart to see, like, what are you holding on to that you maybe shouldn't be? And what is the Lord trying to tell you that, hey, you need to let this go and surrender it. And this process can help you do that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I love that, Kari. I think it's a mindset, but it's also a heart posture too. And thanks for calling attention to that, because I think it's super important. As we're talking and as we're starting this, journey together, Kari, we've talked so much about, physical healing, emotional healing, spiritual healing. And this is really where we're kind of showing you where they intersect.
Yeah.
Because it's a really big piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I think just like with any tool, you can bring God into it or you can leave him out of it. And so this is just another way, right? Another tool that you can do that with. But we are 100% inviting you to bring him in, because whenever we're thinking about these negative emotions, they have to be surrendered to him, right? It's a heart posture of surrender, but we have to surrender them to him, because we know he's the ultimate healer. And so, it's interesting to add in tapping, because to be honest, I mean, you could just use prayer and essential oils and just, right? There's so many different ways that you can release negative emotions, but I feel and have seen personally that adding tapping in can be very, very helpful. So do you want to talk a little bit more about what that looks like? They might not be like, What is tapping? I'm so confused.
Sure. Yes. So for those of you that have never heard of tapping, it's also called emotional freedom technique. So EFT. It's pretty out there now. So you probably at least have heard of it. If not, tapping basically uses tapping on acupuncture points to help release emotions. And so basically what the research says is it calms the amygdala, which is our emotional brain, and it helps to regulate our nervous system. So as to help reduce stress and anxiety, but but specific emotions. And it puts our body into something called parasympathetic response. So that's, we have our sympathetics, which is our fight or flight, right? And we have our parasympathetics, which is our rest and digest or our relaxation response. And so tapping actually puts the body into a relaxation response. Significantly lowering our stress hormone, which is cortisol. So studies shows that it can lower cortisol by 43%. So that's a huge jump for something that really doesn't cost you anything. And you can pretty much do anytime, anywhere. And trust me, I have done it anytime and anywhere. I've tapped in stores, I've tapped in the car, I've tapped everywhere. So it's fast acting. It has long lasting effects. And what I want to call your attention to is, and the handout, we're going to, as Kari said, we'd love for you to try this. We're going to give you a little insight into how to do it today. And it's basically tapping certain acupuncture points. So you start with what's the karate chop. And for those of you who can see me, they're watching us on YouTube. It's just putting the back of our wrists together, and tapping, 10 to 15 times, the top of our head, the outside of our eyebrow. So right on the end of the eyebrow, tapping 10 times, the inside of the eyebrow, under the eye, just directly right midline, right under the eye, right under your nose, right on top of your chin, again, midline, right in the middle of your chin, and then right where your collarbone and your sternum meet. So I usually tap both sides, but you could probably just tap one side. And then the last one is your liver meridian, which is right under your armpit. So for women, it's right at the top of your bra line. And usually that point's a little bit sore because it's a liver meridian. So you'll feel like you got the right spot if it's a tiny bit sore. And if your fingers are getting wet, you're too far up. So again, just right at the top of that bra line. And again, tapping 10 to 15 times. These are the acupuncture points that you'll tap. And there's a statement that you used at the beginning. And it just says, even though I have this, and you insert your emotion. So even though I have this stress, even though I have this anxiety, I totally, completely accept myself. And so you'll do that at the beginning. So even though I have this anxiety, I totally and completely accept myself. Then you're going to be in the negative emotion. I know a lot of times we talk about changing our thoughts and really focusing on the positive. But for this specific technique called tapping, you really are going to focus in on the emotion, which is usually the negative emotion. So you really want to feel it and be in it and see it and hear it and smell whatever you were smelling. Maybe just if it just happened, if it just occurred, that emotion just came up and there was a situation, you kind of want to be in that situation. So you don't want to focus on the positive. In this instance, you really want to focus on the negative, and you're going to rate the emotion. So before you start tapping, what you want to do is just rate it from 1 to 10. So 10 being really intense and 1 hardly being there at all. And then you're going to do a round of the tapping. So again, we'll give you that resource so you can see those points exactly. And that statement is written out so you don't have to memorize it. And you're going to rate it and then tap, and then you're going to rate it again. That rating should ideally go down. So, maybe it was a 9 and you've tapped once and now it's a 4. And so you're going to tap again. And so you can tap again and now it should be a 1 or a 2, hopefully, barely there. I have a really good story with my son. I just noticed he was a little bit lethargic and didn't have the energy that he usually sort of had. And I do muscle testing. So I started muscle testing. And his liver was testing weak. And so, but it wasn't anything physical. And so I knew it had to be emotional. And the liver is anger. And so I said, buddy, what are you mad about? And he's like, oh, nothing. I'm not mad about anything. And then he's like, well, actually, he's like, I'm still thinking about that fumble that I had 2 weeks ago. So I was like, okay, buddy, we're going to help you with that. And I just used some oil. So we used some peace oil from doTERRA and, smelled it. We put a little bit on his vagus nerve right behind his ear. And I did tapping with him. And the first time through, he was still a 4. So he rated his anger about an 8. And then we tapped and he was about a 4. And so we did it again. And before I could even ask him to rate it again, he goes, I feel lighter.
Wow.
So he noticed that, he couldn't communicate. He's 10, but he didn't know that emotion was releasing, so to say, but he knew that he felt lighter. So it's a really powerful tool. And as Kari said, if you can invite God in to just really address that emotion, and to help you handle that emotion, I think this tapping along with the essential oils and prayer can be super, super impactful for your healing.
Yeah. I love that story too.
Yeah.
I just think that, that just goes to show like sometimes people have a hard time even recognizing an emotion, but also just moving through it. And I'm definitely one of those people. Probably in the previous episode, you heard us like kind of joking, like I'm really good at compartmentalizing. So I'm learning that might not be a great idea at times. And so this has really helped me to be able to move through an emotion. Really, first though, I mean, to be honest, like I've really had to pray a lot about being more aware of how I'm feeling versus just going about my day and just going about my, checklist, to be honest. And I know a lot of women are like that. And so I think it does first go with like, we have to be present with where we are and more aware of our emotions and just our thoughts. Absolutely. So I think it does start with that, but this is a really great tool because, with me having a personality more like that, I do tend to just stuff things and just keep moving. And so this has really helped me to be able to move through an emotion and really feel it. And to me, I make the kind of thing you're going to repeat while you're tapping. I make it more of a prayer. Like, even though I'm feeling this way, I trust you, Lord. Like, I trust you with this. And so I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that's what I do. I'm learning still. Right. So that has really helped me to just be like, okay, I am feeling this way. I'm going to stay in the feeling, but I do trust that, that and I trust you with it. Basically, I'm telling Lord, I trust you with it. So that helps me just know that He has me here for a reason. And so it's going to help me work through it. And it's just going to help me surrender it to Him at the same time. So, yeah. So I think that this can kind of, if you're completely new to this, you've never done it, you've never heard of it, just try it. That's what Jenn kept saying to me, Kari, just try it. Because to be honest, I was like, this seems crazy. This seems weird, and in the past, I've just been really like, hesitant with things that have seemed like new age to me. And this was definitely in that box. So if that's been in your box before that you're like, that seems weird, I don't know about that, maybe this is a new way to look at it. Maybe this is a way that you can use it. It is a good tool, but you can use it in the right way. So we just invite you to do that. We have made a completely free resource that shows and just tells you more about the process, kind of summarizes what we said today. It gives you the organ emotion connection so that you can sort of see what the emotion that you're feeling might be connected with what organ and how that might be affecting your physical health. And then it shares how to do the tapping step by step. And then on the very last page, it shares whatever negative emotion that you're feeling. And then it gives you an essential oil or a choice of essential oils that you could use. So we are going to put the link for that free resource in the show notes and in the description of this video so that you can get that. You can look over it, start using it. If you have any questions, any comments, anything that needs clarifying, like we would be more than happy to do that for you. So we're going to put both of our emails, personal emails in there. You can always shoot us a DM over at Instagram. We'll put our handle in there. And I'm just really excited for you guys to be exposed to this maybe for the first time and to see what the Lord is going to do with this, because I feel like this is a really big tool that is, like Jenn said, it can be completely free. If you already have oils, you can use those. If you want to purchase those, we would love to help you with that too. We'll put information about that as well in the free resource. So if you would like to purchase those, we'd be more than happy to help with that too.
Yeah, and share your experiences. So yes. If you've tried it and tell us what you're noticing. We're super excited to hear what you think and to see the changes. So reach out.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Glad to have this conversation with you, Jenn. We'll see you on the next episode.
Okay, take care.